Hey guys, welcome to Programming Knowledge. In the previous video we saw how to create an independent function, right? So this add function right here, this is an independent function. What it means is it is not going to take any inputs and it is not going to return you anything. It just performs the task which it has to do when called, that's it. So in this video we'll learn how to create dependent functions. Most of the time we'll be using dependent functions. We will be using these kinds of functions also, but these are very rare. We will mostly use dependent functions. We just pass it some parameters, we ask the function to do something and then get back the value which we intended to. So how to make this particular function dependent, that is I need to pass in some parameters over here, let's say 2 comma 3, and then it should only add these two numbers. It should not ask the user to enter two numbers and then only work on those two numbers. I want to work on these two numbers which I passed in as parameters. So how do we get these two numbers inside this function? So the way we do that is we define the parameters. The way we define parameters is we first put the data type of the parameter and then the name, right? So in this case the data type would be int and then the name of the parameter, let's just say num1, right? And then we have another integer. So if you do like this, like you declare variables, sometimes you do this, right? So int a comma b. Well, this is going to work only if you're declaring variables. Here you're not declaring variables. Here you are specifying the parameters, right? So while specifying the parameters, it is compulsory that every parameter be mentioned along with its data type. So you need to mention the data type of the second parameter also, even though both the parameters belong to the same data type. You cannot omit the data type of the second because it's just a continuation of the variable declaration. Now what we're going to do is we got the two numbers inside this and we don't need any of this, right? I'm just going to take out these things, and then here instead of a plus b, those two numbers are num1 and num2. So you take num1 over here and then num2 over here, and then it is just going to print out the sum. So let us execute this and see. So 2 plus 3 is 5, so we should be getting the sum is 5 as our output. So here you can see the sum is 5, right? So another thing you can do is if you want to save this particular value, that is if I want to add these two numbers and then keep the result, there is no way to keep the result, right? Well, c contains the result of num1 plus num2, but c is not accessible outside this function, right? Add is one function and then main is another function. Well, if you want to access this particular variable, you need to make it global. That is, you have to put it outside all the functions and then access it. If you remove this, then now c is accessible over here. You could just say c out c over here, and then if you execute it, here you can see it has printed the value of c. But what happens is we don't prefer this kind of global variables. The reason is that whenever the program is getting executed, everything is inside the RAM, that is the random access memory. So once variables are out of scope, they are automatically deleted and then again created whenever the time comes. You need to free up the memory so that other tasks can go on, right? You cannot just keep this particular variable in the memory all the time. So if it is compulsory that you need to keep it, then you can, but if there are other ways to do that without occupying that particular memory, you need not do this because it takes up memory, right? So the way we do that is we return this particular value back to the calling function. So what is return? How do you return something to the calling function? Well, the way you do that is you just need to put the return statement over here. So you just say return c. Now instead of creating a global variable like I did before, you don't have to actually create something and put it in the memory. Once you have executed it, you can just return that particular value over here. So that is the main objective of this add function, right? You need to take in two numbers, add it, and you're going to get one integer. You need to just return it. So if I say something like a equal to, or let's say sum equal to add 2 comma 3, what they expect is these two numbers are added and the sum is coming to this particular variable, that is sum, right? So here if I return it, I'll be getting a problem. So if I now execute it, you will see that I have got a problem. It says okay, C is not, that's because I've written over here. Now let's again run it. So here you can see that it says return statement with a value in a function containing void, right? Returning void. So as I told you before, if you're not returning anything, then only you need to use the void keyword, or else you have to specify the data type what you're going to return. So since I'm returning something, I need to specify the data type, and in my case it's going to be int, because if you add two integers it's going to be integer, right? So I'm just going to return that particular integer, and then here I need to capture that value. So let's say int sum equal to 2 comma 3, and then now I can do this thing inside the main function also. So here I will just paste it, and sum is in my case sum, right? Now if I execute it, we'll be getting the output as the sum is 5. So another thing is, what if we want to make one of the variable optional? So let's say I have another field also, let's say int num3. This is another parameter. So here if I just omit that parameter, I'll be getting an error. So here you can see that too few arguments to this function. That is because I have specified 3 arguments, and then here I'm giving only 2 arguments. So what you need to do is, if you're having an optional variable, you can just put a default value over there. So for addition, if the default value is 0, if you add those three numbers, there's not going to be any difference, right? So if we just put 0 over here, and then I don't pass anything, so it will just do 6 plus 2. So let me just add the number over here also, so num3 also. So I'm just going to store c equal to num1 plus num2 plus num3, and then I'm going to return c. So now if I execute it, you won't be getting any error, and you will be getting the sum perfectly. And if I want to use that variable, I don't have to do anything. I just pass the number and I will be getting the output. So 9 8 is 17. So here you can, this sum is 17. So that's how you use default parameters. And regarding the prototype, so what is a prototype? It is just mentioning the compiler that I do have a function like that, in case you did not write the function's definition before calling it. So what I mean is, I have already called this function over here. So if I write the definition after calling it, I need to specify it, or else it says that this particular function does not exist. So to do that, for the prototype, as I told you, you can directly copy paste this thing. So control C and control V, and then put a semicolon. This is going to work, but what you can do is, in case of parameterized function, you don't have to write the variable names also. So you can just skip these things. Well, it's going to work with the variable names also, but you don't have to put them, and you should not put default values over here. So that is there in the function definition. In the prototype, you just need to define the structure of the function, and you don't have to put the default values and all. You just need to put what the function is and what it's going to take. And now if I execute it, I won't be getting that any error, and I'll be getting the output. So that's how you use dependent functions in C++. In the next video, we will talk about recursion and different types of passing arguments. So here I just pass some numbers, right? So these are direct numbers. So what if I want to pass some variables also? So let's say a equal to 2. Well, in this particular case, you can just pass it over here. It is going to work. Well, it's int a equal to 2. It is going to work, but actually there is a meaning for passing like this. There are two methods of passing variables, that is passing by value and passing by reference. We'll be talking about all those things in the next video. Till then, happy coding.